While Vince McMahon can be seen as a genius, sometimes him and his creative team come up with some mind-boggling ideas. These are 10 times the WWE lost their minds. The Great KHALI as World Champion. We know that Vince and the WWE like to push stars just because of their size, but this one was just silly. Not only could the big man not wrestle, but he could barely walk, and for some reason the WWE gave him a clean victory over The Undertaker, and then the world title. It's not the worst of decisions, but looking back on it, it never should have happened. Brawl for All. Due to UFC's rise in popularity, Vince Russo in his infinite wisdom thought it would be good to book a shoot tournament between WWE's mid-card. It worked out horribly as the bouts were boring and people were getting legitimately injured. It was meant to get Steve Williams prepared for a main event run, but when he was knocked out by Bart Gunn, the tournament was then considered a complete bust. Beaver Cleavage. The Attitude Era was known to push boundaries, but this is an example of WWE trying too hard, and the result was incredibly stupid. The character was based on the show Leave It to Beaver and involved Mosh of the Headbangers appearing with Mrs. Beaver making incestuous jokes. The character was a horrendous attempt at comedy and was dropped weeks later, but not without leaving a horrible legacy behind. ZEUS. Fictional characters from movies often invaded wrestling many years ago, but none overstayed their limited welcome like ZEUS. The character lost to Hulk Hogan in the movie No Holds Barred and entered WWE seeking his revenge. And he competed in several tag team matches against Hogan. He no-sold moves and that was about it, and fans, as expected, grew sick of it very quickly. J.R'S colon surgery. It's fair to say that Jim Ross wasn't treated very well by the WWE, and this is just another embarrassing example. This embarrassing segment saw Vince McMahon on screen with a fake pair of buttocks in front of him as he attempted to poke fun at JR. He pulled various objects out, such as a football and barbecue sauce, and while McMahon seemed to find it hilarious, it was one of the worst segments in WWE history. And that's saying something. The Exploding Limo. This one came out of nowhere, and was another idea from Vince McMahon that was way more dramatic story than wrestling show. He made a long walk past the roster to his limousine before it exploded, with WWE airing a tribute show a week later. Unfortunately, the Chris Benoit tragedy happened shortly after, so the company dropped the story immediately. It's hard to say where the story was going, but it was ridiculous to say the least. May 19th. Ever since his debut in the late 90s, Kane has been involved in some ludicrous storylines, but this one may top them all. Kane was starring in the movie See No Evil, and the release date was May 19th, and for weeks leading up to it, the date seemed to haunt Kane as he was driven into a frenzy anytime he saw or heard the date. When it finally arrived, Kane won a forgettable match, and was then attacked by an imposter Kane. The storyline was dropped weeks later due to lack of interest, and it's hard to see where the company was taking this one. It wasn't his fault. While this may be a very memorable story, it's one that makes you question how WWE has been so successful for years. Snitsky debuted in 2004 and in his first match hit Kane with a steel chair, causing him to fall on the kayfabe pregnant Lita, who was carrying his child. Snitsky then came out with his iconic line, "It wasn't my fault!" which is what his crazy character then became known for. He boasted about causing Lita to miscarry the baby and even brought a doll to the ring and punted it into the crowd for laughs. His career went no one from here, and it's hard to see how WWE got away with such silly programming. Katie Vick. This one just gets worse every time you think about it, and one Triple H would desperately like you to forget. For some reason, a rivalry between the Game and Kane sparked when Triple H revealed that Kane's ex-girlfriend was killed by him in a drunk driving accident. More than that, he accused Kane of making love to her after she had passed away. Further than that, we saw Triple H go to a coffin and pretend he was making love to a mannequin representing Vic, and while it was meant to be funny, many fans were disgusted. Mae Young birthing a hand? The Attitude Era is one of the best in wrestling history, but outside of the top stars, we saw some horrible moments at that time. Perhaps the worst of the lot involved the story between the elderly Mae Young and sexual chocolate Mark Henry. The whole ordeal peaked when Mae was seen backstage birthing a hand. And you have to imagine that after years of ridiculous stories, the creative team must have just snapped from the insanity. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, never show these moments to non-wrestling fans. They might think you're insane.